What is going on, guys? Ultimate Deadpool here, back with another video. This is hopefully going to be a relatively short video. I am making no promises though. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about today. This is more of an update video. Yes, we are going to be reviewing two things, actually technically three things out of this video, but just giving you guys a general update in general. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Starting off with our first little update slash discussion. You guys have seen this setup before. This is for the Last Ronin versus a Predator video. Now, previously the LEDs in these two pieces were white. I went ahead and changed them all to orange and added one in his lantern if there wasn't one already in the last video that I talked about it. So hopefully that's going to give it a little bit more realistic look when this shows up on video. As of right now, yes, it's kind of not working because all the lights are on, but hopefully in low light and on camera it looks a little bit better than what it does now. And sticking with minor updates but also real quick reviews, I finally did it. I went ahead and picked up a second unarmored Last Ronin and did it up to look like Kratos from God of War, technically 4, but no specific one. This is just supposed to be an older version of Kratos, since I already did a Raphael as younger Kratos. Figured why not make the two match. So now I have turtle versions of both versions of Kratos, young Kratos and old Kratos. Granted, young Kratos needs a little bit of work. This guy is not perfect. We'll get into that in a little bit. But this is as basic as it gets. This is just the simple Last Ronin generic body, except his skirt pieces or whatever for his armor or whatever this flap stuff is now painted in a very dark chocolate brown. His pants are now black. His shin armor is also dark brown, as well as the armor pads on his feet, and the soles and bottom of his shoes are all a nice dark brown. And then obviously up for his body, it's the same dolphin gray paint that I used for my previous versions of Kratos, plus he's also got the red tattooing all along his back and his shell and his bicep and even on his head. He will have a Spartan Rage head, because I do have an extra open mouth Last Ronin head that I'm tempted to use as a Spartan Rage thing, so I can actually have him in a pose rather than just standing there in a display case like this for forever and a day. But that is neither here nor there. Oh, and you may have caught a glimpse of this a second ago, but this Kratos has Mimir. The 2018 God of War figure that I reviewed a while back and then ended up repainting did not come with Mimir or the Blades of Chaos. He is eventually going to have Blades of Chaos, because those are my favorite weapons from God of War, but he does actually have a Mimir of sorts. And that is this. This was the best I could come up with. Since I recently reviewed the Last Ronin version of Donatello, I took his extra head, and by simply just squeezing the plastic, rubberish plastic from the two pieces of the Last Ronin's rubber belt thing, I just slid his bandana in there, so technically all of this is reversible and is not permanent. And I went with Donatello because Mimir is supposed to be the smartest man alive. Donatello is supposed to be the smartest Ninja Turtle out of all four of them. It worked for me. And then he also has just the random other assorted weapons that he comes with right out of the box, plus his nunchucks up front. So this is as close as I'm going to get to the Last Ronin old man version, or let me start that over. This is as close as I can get to Kratos, the God of War from 2018, as the Last Ronin, as a full-on repaint. He even has the little scar on his chest There is a scar on his back to complete the look, but obviously this belt and the sword all hides that. But it is there. So this particular character is probably never going to show up in any other videos. Maybe just as a quick Easter egg, blink and you miss it type thing, but nothing major. So this guy I mostly did just for my personal collection. Okay, now on to probably what people are going to be skipping to the most. Spider-Man from PS5's Spider-Man 2. I have not played that game yet, but I've seen enough people play it to hopefully do this figure justice. Plus it's Spider-Man. You can't go wrong with Spider-Man. So this is actually one of my favorite looks for the black suit. The black suit is probably one of my favorite Spider-Man outfits, just because it is the most, in my opinion, the most badass looking version of Spider-Man, especially when Tobey donned it in Spider-Man 3. I know a lot of people did not like Spider-Man 3. I personally did, and I still do to this day, and I think that Tobey in the black suit was by far one of the best choices that they could have done, because it gave us a bunch of memes, and let's face it, the freaking Tobey Maguire black suit was badass. And yes, I know Marvel Legends made a black suited Tobey Maguire. I do plan on picking him up at some point, just not right now. For now, this version of the black suit will work just for me. So he comes with 4 different hands and a very useless accessory that we'll get into in a little bit. But he does come with a web. We'll talk more about this here in a little bit. But all in all, it does what he says in the box. It's a freaking PS5 Spider-Man 2 black suited Spider-Man. Specifically Peter Parker, because heaven forbid Miles Morales does not get mentioned. Anyway, I'm not the biggest Miles Morales fan, so if I treat him badly in the game, don't... that's why. Anyway, and no, Miles Morales will never appear in the connected universe. But this will. I'll explain that here in a little bit once we get to the actual update segments of today's video. So, the black suit. Easily one of the most recognizable versions of Spider-Man ever. First appeared in the Secret Wars comic book of, I want to say, 1970-ish timeline, or mid-1980s, which eventually led to Venom's creation in 1988. I wish I had a Venom to go with him, but unfortunately the only Venom I have is the Scorpion Venom from way, way back in the day. And he just does not look right standing next to really anybody, because he can't stand worth a shit. So hopefully someday I'll get a proper Venom to go along with this version of Spider-Man, and just in general. Because Venom is also going to appear in the connected universe. We'll touch upon that later. But the black suit is iconic for several different reasons. One, it gave Spider-Man a brand new look that most fans actually really do enjoy. It is probably the darkest version of Spider-Man, no pun intended. And, you know, it basically just makes Spider-Man that much more aggressive and everything else. So what I'm trying to say is, most people know what the black suit does to Spider-Man. And most people will recognize this suit right off the bat of who it is, what is going on, and what he's infected with. So, and what that storyline usually leads off to. So, when I was just browsing around my local Target, and I happened to see this. I'm like, I didn't know they were making that. I mean, I knew they were probably eventually going to do it, but I didn't think it was going to be right now. And they only had one. So, I'm like, you know what? Fine, whatever. I went ahead and picked it up, and I brought it back here, and I opened the box, and found out that he comes with a completely useless accessory. And that's this web. This web is by far one of the coolest features of this version of Spider-Man, but it's also completely useless. For figure photography, this web sucks ass, and we'll get into why in just a little bit. just know that it is sculpted really well. It's made of like a rubbery style, plasticky feel. You can shape it and whatnot, but it doesn't hold its shape because there's no wires or anything in it. So, but if you're going to use this for figure photography, because that's what this Spider-Man apparently is very good for, he cannot hold it. They do not give you a hand meant specifically to hold this web. And what's funny about that is there is a clear handle for Spider-Man to hold on to for a web swinging pose, but they don't give you a hand specifically made for Spider-Man to hold on to the web. What they want you to do is pop the hand off, slide it in between the, I guess, spider web and the fist like this. You don't actually have to take the hand off for it, but this is one of the ways that you can do it. Basically, slide it on over the wrist, and that is how he's supposed to hold the web swinging web. No, I'm sorry. I am a firm believer on if you're going to make an accessory that comes with a figure that is meant to interact with said figure, you need to have something they could go ahead and use to interact with said item. And this right now is a perfect example. They give you a spider web specifically for web swinging poses, but no hand specifically for the web swinging pose. That's just not good enough for me. Granted, yes, this is a cheaper figure and whatnot. I get that. He doesn't really come with a ton of stuff, which also pisses me off, but we'll get into that in a little bit later. But if you're going to give him something that he's meant to interact with a hand as a permanent pose for some people, because kids, they're not going to care. Collectors like me, they're going to care about this. So, if you're going to give somebody the means to pose up Spider-Man doing a web-swinging pose, give him a freaking hand to actually use the stupid spider web-swinging effect with. And they give you two different web thwipping hands, but no way to actually attach it to his hand, so you can't even make it look like he's using the effect as a web thwipping gesture. Frustrating. Most people, they'll probably just end up putting this back in the box. Kids will probably use it as like, oh look, Spider-Man's whipping up a bad guy or something. That's fine. But as collectors and stuff, especially since this is part of like that Gameverse line or whatever, I would expect them to actually give you a hand for that. But for me, this piece is just going to go in a box and never get used or even touched for that matter. So that can go away. The rest of the accessories are just hands. Like I said, he comes with two web swinging or web thwipping hands, and then two wall crawling / splayed out open palm hands, and then obviously two closed fists that were already installed on him right out of the box. Speaking of right out of the box, this dude is actually very well detailed. Like I said, I have never played the Spider-Man 2 PS5 game. I am working on that though. But from what I've seen and everything else on YouTube and the Hot Toys figure and whatnot that I've seen of this suit, this is perfect. This suit, this detail, makes up for a lack of the accessories that come with this version of Spider-Man. Granted, most Gamerverse Spider-Man action figures don't come with a whole lot of accessories. For instance, the Gamerverse Velocity suit only came with two, if I remember correctly, only came with like one or two effects. One was like a web thwip, spider web mask thing that covers up the person's face, and then I think the other one was a like full-on splayed out spider web meant to web up bad guys, and that was it. He didn't come with any other hands. He didn't come with any other heads or whatnot. He didn't come with a bunch of stuff, but it was fine because this is an alternative suit. Rather, this is an actual gameplay, storyline, whatever. This is something that's meant to be part of the game. This was just an added bonus. But in Spider-Man 2, when Peter is using the suit, He's got tentacles and stuff everywhere. I would have loved to have seen Venom tentacle attachments that you could put on this version of Spider-Man for display purposes. Or even just play features. You know, like you could have, you know, Spider-Man with his arm up, arm twisted like that, and have tentacles going out like that. Or have back, you know, like back attachments or whatever. We could peg stuff in his back, or even like just use that same stupid rubbery plastic that they use for the spiderweb swinging effect and have it wrap around his body and give him the like venomized tentacle robotic arm things from the Advanced Suit 2.0. Anything would have been better than just a static Spider-Man, but I'm not going to complain on that because the suit's detail alone, to me at least, makes up for those lack of accessories. The proportions looks just like the game model. He is actually the same proportions, believe it or not, as the Velocity suit. The Velocity suit does look a slight bit bigger, but remember that this is armor. So technically, the body underneath that would logically be the same size as the black suit. So if you have one of the other Gamerverse Spider-Man Marvel Legend figures, and you're curious on how this guy's going to scale up with everybody else, whether the proportions are going to be whacked out or whatever, they're roughly the same thing. And yes, this isn't the best comparison, but even the Iron Spider 3.0 suit, or Iron Spider Mark III, because that's what this Invincible is built off of, is the same Gamerverse line, and they have around the same proportions. So, not the best comparison in the world, seeing as that's now Invincible and not Spider-Man anymore. But it was Spider-Man. But if you look at back to the molding on the suit, there are panel lines and stuff throughout all the suit, and that is supposed to be there. There's like muscle fibers and stuff, really gross, along his thighs and legs, on both inside and outside. There's stretched muscle fibers and stuff like on the inside of his biceps and on his arms and his gauntlet areas. The spider logo is actually 3D, so you can actually feel all that stuff. There's like a almost like clay-like texture throughout the whole thing. You can feel all of this stuff on Spider-Man, but like the base mold or whatever, like for instance right here on the top of his head, if you feel his head, it's not perfectly smooth. It's got like almost like a clayish like feel to it, and that's just because it's supposed to be a wet, glossy, slick alien suit. And that's exactly what it kind of feels like. It doesn't feel sticky or anything. It just, the way they have that sculpted, where it's not a perfectly smooth piece. You can see, you know, like right there on his shoulder, you can see all those little bumps and indentations and whatnot to make it look like it's not a perfectly flat suit, which I think is genius, because it gives it more visual interest. That's why I will always defend panel lining on superhero suits, because if you went with straight up spandex, or you know, their comic book counterpart, very boring suit. The only time I will disagree with that is for a classic Spider-Man suit, because of the spider webs on the suit. That alone gives it more visual interest. But if you went with something like a generic, you know, say for instance you were going to do an Omni-Man, live action Omni-Man suit, it wouldn't look as smooth or as clean as this does. It would be full of panel lines and everything else to give it a little bit more visual interest, rather than it just being a straight, boring spandex outfit. So I will forever defend panel lining for that, because of that reason. So I'm fine with the panel lines on this suit. I know there were a lot of people when the Spider-Man 2 video game first came out, they were not thrilled that they gave the black suit panel lines and stuff like that, but it's technically off the Advanced suit, and yes, the Advanced suit doesn't have all that panel line work, but it kind of does at the same time. So, anyway, whoops. But all that stuff, like you can feel all those panel lines, all the like muscle fiber pieces and whatever, like on his legs and on his biceps, on his forearms, even his neck, the back of his head. You can feel all that stuff. And then thank you, friggin' PS4 or PS5 studios, whoever the fuck makes the Spider-Man games, for giving Spider-Man the big white bug eyes. There are so many companies and so many video game stuff out there that give him the really small, squinty style bug eyes, which are fine and whatnot. It's just I prefer Spider-Man to have the really big and exaggerated bug eyes, because that's kind of what he was supposed to have in the comic books. Again, the only exception is Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, because I grew up with Tobey Maguire. So, am I biased? Hell yes. But on the black suit, it makes more sense to have the big white bug eyes, because there is no lens. This is all meant to be Venom. So to have the white section all be one big fat piece rather than two separate pieces like the traditional lenses are, I'm okay with that. So not much else to really talk about on black suited Spider-Man. Just know that this version of Spider-Man will show up in the connected universe as a black suit. He's not going to be the black suit. We'll explain that. I'll explain that when that time comes. But yes, this will look like Spider-Man in the black suit at least one time in the connected universe. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight as to what I have planned with the connected universe. I'll elaborate all of that stuff in a future video, because the connected universe is currently being kind of redeveloped to where hopefully I can actually start it sooner rather than when I was going to do it originally, because I just can't do some of the stuff that I want to do, and I know I can't do that. So I'm going to try to stick with what I know. It hasn't failed me yet, so hopefully that all works itself out relatively nicely. So the only other thing I wish this Spider-Man came with, aside from the symbiote effects and obviously a hand to hold that stupid web effect, is I wish he had different hands, or swappable hands. Ones that had the chevrons on his knuckles or on the backs of his hands, and ones that had the white square on them, so that way you could use this guy as a comic book accurate black suited Spider-Man. Because for those of you who may not know this, the black suit does not have these white chevrons. It actually has these little black squares, and that's what shoots the web out. So, you know what? For a Marvel Legends thing, it's fine. I mean, I am a collector. Some of you guys might not know that. I am. I don't see how you can't figure that out, though, because I have so much extra crap and stuff that I really don't need, but they just stand in the display case for my own personal admiration. But, you know, for a kid who loves playing Spider-Man 2 and loved this look of Spider-Man in that game, this is honestly going to be just enough for them to enjoy, have a good time, you know, maybe have this guy fight, you know, random characters and stuff like kids are supposed to do instead of playing on their phones all day. But that's neither here nor there. I guarantee if I had had this as a kid, this probably would have been my favorite Spider-Man toy when I was a kid. I almost guarantee this would have been. But having it as an adult, I can now use this guy for so many stop motion videos, it's not even funny. So expect black suited Spider-Man to not only appear in the connected universe, but moving forward through future videos, hopefully this black suit shows up a lot more frequently. But just be aware, it's not always going to be Venom as the black suit, because there are moments in the comic books where I believe Black Cat does make Spider-Man a black suit out of regular fabric because it's, quote, hotter. Or it made him look hotter. So, her words, not mine. But hopefully, stuff like that will show up in the connected universe and also future videos and whatever, to have this be more of a black suit and in par with a regular red and blue suit. Just a thought. Maybe even use this as a stealth suit. But hey, that's Black Suited Spider-Man. So let's go ahead and finish out the rest of this video because I've spent way too much time on Spider-Man. But let's keep going. Hey, everybody remembers these two guys, right? Right? I'm just kidding. If you don't, of course, this is my current custom Omni-Man and Invincible from Amazon Prime's Invincible, also inspired by the Invincible comic books of the same name. So we have obviously Mark on the left and Nolan on the right, or vice versa, depending on which camera angle you're looking at. So, obviously, I've had these guys for a little while. Some people don't like the look that I chose for Invincible. It's the best I had. I did the best I could with what I had to work with, but I hated my Omni-Man. Yes, he's able to do the whole think Mark think pose and whatnot, and overall it doesn't look horrible, but he cannot pose worth a shit. Because there is so much freaking paint caked up on there, because it took me at least 7 layers of spray paint just to get that the color on the white suit, or portion of the suit. All the white on this guy is spray painted, and it took like 7 or 8 coats just to get it to that freaking shade of white. I'm not kidding, it took that many. So unfortunately there was a whole bunch of paint buildup, and he was not able to really do much of anything. Insert now the new and potentially improved version of Omni-Man. No, ignore the white pants. That will be fixed. This guy is not done. As you can see, he does not have a cape yet. And he has not had the protective spray over his body to keep it from chipping or peeling or whatever later down the line. Now, one key thing you'll notice is his suit is not 100% smooth like this one is. That is because this whole suit right here is spray painted, with the exception of the red. That stuff is hand painted. This one, however, the entirety of the white portions of it are hand painted, so brush strokes and everything were going to be there in between. And I did try spray painting this guy originally, and all of it came off because I primered everything first to hopefully make the spray paint stick better so I could use less coats than I did the first time. And I quickly found out that that was a bad idea, because the white paint that I got specifically to bond with the plastic and the primer dried like crap, and it bubbled up and everything else, so I had to scrape everything off with my hands and fingers, hence why my hands and stuff are partially covered in white and red paint, or at least they were earlier. But I had to scrape everything off, so there are chunks of, or small chunks of miscellaneous spray paint actually stuck to this version of Omni-Man. But hopefully when he's in motion and whatnot, it's just going to give it his suit a little bit more texture and detail, rather than it, like I said, looking like an all clean, boring generic suit. Although I do like the smoothness of that suit, I much prefer the posability now potentials of this one. And yes, I have tried it. So, starting off with his head, I actually like this face a lot better than his original. Yes, they basically look exactly the same. That's because they're the exact same 3D printed head. The only difference is this one was painted a little bit differently than this one does. This one has more of a wide-eyed, like, holy crap, I'm staring into your soul kind of face, versus this one looks a little bit more relaxed, looks a little bit more mellow. I am still going to fix his eyes just a little bit, but honestly, I do like this head a little bit more than I do this one, even though they are basically the exact same thing. The symbols on the torso are almost identical, as well as the detail work on his back as well. This one's a little bit less extreme than what this one is, but they both have the exact same red markings on their upper bodies. And then just like the traditional Omni-Man suit, there is that white line and red lines on his gauntlet or on his gauntlets and boots. Whoop. So this Omni-Man cannot stand really worth a crap unless you have him in the perfect position like he is now. So for a while he's been standing on my shelf just like this with Invincible next to him. This guy is actually a lot more posable because his entire body is hand painted. So moving forward with future videos, this guy is just going to be standing on a shelf with his versus this guy. He's actually going to be able to hopefully be used for videos. He'll have a wired cape. He'll have the red pants to go with everything else, and he'll actually have minimum but still usable, hopefully, posability. Now, it's not perfect. It's not ever going to be perfect because it's a custom, and typically you paint these things, then you set them on a shelf, and then they sit there like that forever. I found a loophole with Invincible, so hopefully that same loophole will work with him. At least he'll be able to move his arms forward and his torso around a little bit, and obviously his legs. But I'm not holding my breath on it. It's never going to be perfect because it's a custom. I am expecting to have to do a little bit of touch-ups here and there every now and then, but that's just what happens when you have a, for a lack of a better term, more flesh-toned, complete body rather than having a, the color that you're already looking for to begin with, like I did with Mark. Mark's suit, the only parts on it that are painted by me are the yellow and blue sections, and obviously his fists. But the rest of the black portion was already there because it was molded in black. Like I said earlier, it was the Spider-Man Mark III armor. But I repurposed it for Invincible. So I can pose all day, use all day for videos, and his paint will never work because it's not in high traffic areas. Versus Nolan, it's all the high traffic areas. His biceps do swivel, so that's great. So far, no paint rub and stuff there. Obviously, his head is still relatively free floating because it's not connected to his neck connector yet. Versus this one, it was fixed in place. He can nod and swivel a little bit, but nothing major. And then obviously he can still bend his arms, double bend on both sides. His legs can drop down, so he can get a much higher range, for fights and flights and everything else in between. His legs or his ankles probably won't bend that far because I don't want to expose the black unpainted boots underneath it. He does also have toe articulation. Again, I'm not going to be messing with that. As long as he can look the part, show up, kick butt, and then fly away, I don't really care. But Omni-Man is probably going to be a vaguely reoccurring character when it comes to videos just because of how delicate it is. Because I really don't want to spend several days repainting this guy over and over and over and over again. Because that's just going to eventually make it look like a conjumbled mess. I'm looking at you over there. But, like I said, just for the idea of having it being posable until I can find a body that is exactly like this, proportions and everything are there, but it's already molded in white, so all the high traffic areas are going to be in his legs and legs alone, then I'm SOL. And yes, I know there is a company that is making officially licensed versions of these. I may go ahead and pick that up and have that replace this. I don't know yet. I haven't thought that far ahead yet. But as of right now, this will do just fine. Even though, yes, it is obviously not foolproof. But hopefully, once all of that stuff is said and done, it will work a little bit better. Obviously, right now, because it's not sprayed in clear, it's still highly active, for lack of a better term. So, but like I said, hopefully he'll be finished up before too long, and he will replace him, and hopefully he'll actually be able to show up in at least a few videos until I either get the official licensed one or something else along the lines at a later time. So let's go ahead and move on. Like I said in one of my last videos, I am actually very hard at work at trying to get the last Ronin to fight a Predator. Now, no, I'm not doing that with this version of Deadpool, but I do have a video planned for this version of Deadpool. I'm not going to say what the premise is, but hopefully it'll be a dumb, fun, turn off your brain and watch the video and enjoy it type video with this version of Deadpool. The only problem is I need to try to find a crew or something to make it look more piratey. But for now, this will do just fine. Because obviously he's going to be the main star of that video. But I will tease you this. It is a music video. So for those of you who like some of my music videos, like the whole Welcome to the Internet, the Thor tribute, or, Metalhead Reads the Raven, or stuff like that, hopefully this will be video that's along those lines. So if you like that type of stuff, check it out. It'll be hopefully fun, and it'll hopefully be funny. So, and then obviously, as part of an update, I do hope to have Deadpool show up in a lot more videos, whether it's, dressed like this or in his traditional comic book look. I just pulled this guy out just because he was the closest, and because I want to announce that, yes, this version of Deadpool will show up in a musical video, or a music video, hopefully sometime soon, but only time will tell. And speaking of Deadpool, ignore the fact that he's doing the whole heart-shaped pose with trigger finger hands. I intend to do on more death battles and more videos and stuff moving forward, because now I actually have time to do that stuff, but at least for now I do. So I want to try to use characters like Deadpool and Wolverine for future videos more frequently moving forward, rather than Deadpool being a glorified cameo and Wolverine showing up for a blood test, for a lack of a better term. So I'm hoping that before too long, I'll be able to use these guys for more videos. If you have any ideas on who these guys should fight, what they should do, or if you have any ideas specifically for one or the other, let me know down in the comments, and I'll get my best to try to get that stuff done. So let's go ahead and end off today's video. Alright, that's pretty much it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will catch you guys all next time at Ultimate Deadpool. Peace out. You guys are awesome. I'll catch you guys all later. Bye.